Allegiance, and I understand tonight that we have presentation of colors. Tracy, do you have an MC for that?
We do.
Thank you.
Dr. Cooper, would you like to introduce our very important guests that are here tonight to help us present the colors and for our superintendent's presentation?
Yes, we are so excited to have David Charpentier and team here from our local Legion to present the colors. So I will turn it over to you, and we'll stand and observe the flag.
On a half step, horse. Color guard, halt. Post the colors. Present horse. Order arms. Left face. On the half step, horse.
You all will join me in saying the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
Thank you again.
Thank you so much.
Thanks.
Moving on, we also have tonight the approval of some minutes for a couple of past meetings. I need a motion, please.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion or comments? Seeing none, Sean, please call the roll.
Ms. Yingling?
Yes.
Mrs. Batchy?
Yes.
Mr. Wise?
I was not here on the June 14th meeting, so I'll abstain on that one and approve the other.
Mr. Galvin?
Yes.
Mr. Orr?
Yes.
Oro?
Thank you. At this point in time, if anyone, we typically take a break. If anyone needs to leave, you're welcome to do so. If not, you can stay and enjoy the rest of our meeting.
Superintendent's
Superintendent's presentation.
I'm sorry. You're right. It's at the top of the page. I thought that was a continuation of number 4. You're right. Item 5. I apologize, Dr. Cooper.
You're right.
Superintendent's presentations.
No, and again, thank you again for being here tonight. I appreciate the Joe Barr American Legion Post 194. Thank you for being present for tonight. Tonight is a special evening. We just celebrated July 4th this weekend, a beautiful ceremony and celebration here at Mason and the community, and hopefully everybody got a chance to enjoy that. We're also here today celebrating something special for our school system. So we have a Purple Star recognition for 3 of our school buildings. And I want to invite Heather Smith to join us, if you would. Heather, if you want to come up for a second, and we might have some questions for you. Is that okay? I'm going to present these to the board with Heather. Heather Smith came in and supported our central office during a time of need, and we were going through some amazingly difficult times as we were trying to navigate COVID and everything else, and Heather came in and helped us navigate that with grace and integrity. And during that time, she would ask, is there anything else? Are there anything else? And she brought to our attention, there is something that's out there that looks like it would be great for our school system, and it's a Purple Star recognition. And what it basically means is that we are a school that is intentionally saying that we support military families. And so, Heather, is there anything else that you would like to share about that process or anything detail-wise, and then we'll present the certificates to the board.
I just want to say my husband joined me here today. He has been in the service since 2000, and so we are a military family. And one of the things that's great is to have a school board that's interested in supporting families, especially when you're not near a military installation. Sometimes you can feel a little lost and misunderstood, and it's great to have a school board and a school that is willing to be proactive and really train their staff in how to support military families and also reach out to those families so we feel like we have a supportive network here, even though we're not near a military installation. So I thank you all for that.
Thank you. And your name again, your first name? Aaron, thank you for being here, because I know this is a family support. So thank you, Heather. Thank you for all the work you've done. And let's give her a hand for her work for doing this. Any comments, board, before we'd like to get a picture with you with the certificates, if that's okay?
Well, I don't want to go out of turn, but I know that we all appreciate your hard work on this, Heather, and I think in particular, it comes as no surprise that you spearheaded the nitty-gritty of this effort. For those that don't know, I think we would be lost without having you during pandemic in 2020 when we were kind of running in circles, getting organized with contact tracing and all that had to entail. And you were kind of the woman behind the curtain, so to speak, getting everybody the information they needed as efficient as possible. And so, again, your comment about having a board that supports a community that isn't typically near a military installment, we likewise are appreciative of having somebody who is familiar with that in our community and leaving a lasting legacy like this for us. So thank you.
Well said.
Yeah.
Very well said.
Yes. We are just ever so appreciative of that effort, but also of all of those who have served in the past and sacrificed part of their lives, and in many cases, the ultimate sacrifice. We are so grateful, and thank you so much for your service.
And Heather, we want to thank you on behalf of the school district just for your hard work. You did come in during just a crazy time, and you did exactly what we needed. And we asked you to do all kinds of crazy things, and you did. And you were a leader in the state of Ohio helping navigate COVID for, I see coaches in the room. One of the reasons we had seasons is because of Heather Smith and her work. So as you start to see the full impact of everything that went on, it's because we had a person willing to put in the extra hours and have long conversations. And I want to thank your family as well, just for giving you to us for that time period, because I know we worked well over the hours that we originally talked about, and we appreciate it. We didn't know what COVID really meant when we said, hey, you want to come on and help us manage some data? So we want to thank you for that. And what a great thing to, while doing that and serving our community, saying, hey, could we also look bigger and be a place that's friendly and welcoming to military families. It says this is a place that you can find a sense of belonging. So thank you so much. If you want to come on up, and we'll get a picture with the board with certificates.
I wonder if we might have our members of the American Legion join us as well for this picture. Is that okay? Yeah, that'd be great. And we would love for you to join us as well, please. Yeah, that's great. Actually, if you'll just scooch in. Yep, there we go. That's great. And then maybe come down slightly this way. Scooch. There we go. Then I can see everybody. That's perfect. 1, 2. Awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you both.
At this point, I will offer anyone who would like to step out from the meeting for tonight, or you may stay. We would be very welcome. We're very happy to have your company for the rest of the meeting.
Thank you. Good to see you.
Next up on our agenda tonight is the hearing of the public. And tonight we have 4 speakers, I believe. First one is Greg Wilhelm. If you would please come to the podium and state your name and address. And we give each of our speakers 3 minutes so that we can hear everyone that would like to be heard by the board tonight.
Awesome, thanks.
Thank you very much.
Greg Wilhelm, I'm at 4969 Colt Lane. I have 2 daughters that graduated from Mason High School, 2 sons that are still in high school, all of them in the athletic community, from baseball to golf to track and field and basketball. My work experience is kind of unique that I've been in the sports medicine world for 15 years as an independent sales rep. So I know surgeons in 3 states in and out. And I've seen good surgeons, bad surgeons, good groups, bad groups. And I always tell people, no matter what surgery you're having or what procedure, find the rep in that industry, because that's the one that is going to tell you where you should go. Dr. Rosano has been taking care of my kids for several years, as well as some of the other Beacon physicians as well. And I can go anywhere I want to go because I know all the good ones and all the bad ones. I know that Mason loves their athletes. I think it would be a mistake to change that, to having Raz take care of the team, because a lot of these athletes are going to go to the next level. And you want somebody that's competent, is taking care of them. He lives in the community. He's taking care of athletes from every level. So that's just what I wanted to say.
Thanks.
Thanks.
Thank you very much. Next up, we have, I'm sorry, Ian Thank you so much. Oh, okay, Rodway, got you.
Hi, I'm Dr. Ian Rodway. I'm a spine surgeon at Beacon Orthopedics. I'm a graduate of Mason. I live in Mason. My 4 kids go to Mason. They're all involved in athletics. I help occasionally with Raz on the sideline. Again, I'm here in support of not changing our doctor coverage. No one does it better than Beacon. We've been doing this longer than 20 years. Cover the Reds, Xavier University, all the big high schools in town. We have multiple physicians in every subspecialty, and this is what we do. I would hate to see this, particularly where I live and where my kids go. I would hate to see this change. And I was very proud when we got the contract, being a local guy who went here, and I'm proud to stand on the sideline and support, and I hope we can keep this relationship going.
Thank you. Next up, we have Andrew Rosano.
Good evening. My name is Dr. Andrew Zano. I live at 6596 Berkeley Court. I'm a board-certified orthopedic surgeon in sports medicine at Beacon Orthopedics. I'm a physician for the Cincinnati Reds. I've had the pleasure of taking care of Mason High School and this school district for the past 4 years, and hopefully the rest of my career. Last week, Premier, a Dayton-based health system, which we originally had an agreement with, terminated our contract. There was no discussion, just a termination of services. This puts the medical services for the student body in jeopardy. These services not only include myself, but Trent Smart, our strength and conditioning coach, who's doing an excellent job for our community. They're removing us and placing a Dayton-based practice in this school district with no ties to the community. These physicians don't have a facility in Mason or the Cincinnati market. No MRI surgery can be done locally here, leading to inefficient care. Simply put, level of care is going to be subpar. I'm extremely passionate about this district and the student body that I get the pleasure of treating every day. I pride myself on providing students immediate access to all medical services, and even every Saturday morning, 7 a.m. training room, 8 a.m. in my office. I want to continue providing that care and service these students, and even expand with a new partnership with TriHealth. We believe there are multiple avenues to keep our partnership with Mason going forward, and we would greatly appreciate the opportunity to speak to school board members at your convenience. One of these avenues was presented to Premier from TriHealth. Premier didn't accept. TriHealth offered to buy out the entire contract, continuing all financial support and extend the contract. More importantly, it would create an elite campus. We have the community center, all facilities on campus that can now provide not only orthopedics, primary care, special needs services, mental health services to our student body, but also our community. I know you're blindsided by this, but I implore you, stand up for your student body. Keep Beacon's relationship with Mason High School in this community. Along with TriHealth's backing, we in this room can create an elite medical campus. I live in this community, and I want to serve it for the rest of my career. We're the best at doing this because we love it, I love it, and they know it because they're here. That group doesn't love it. And if they tell you they do, they don't love it as much as I do. We're the best at this for a reason. Please reach out to us. Keep lines of communication open. My cell phone's always on, and they could attest to that. Every day I get a call from someone in Mason, and I see them immediately. Reach out to your coaches, reach out to your community. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you. Next up, we have Rocky Croy. Is it Gray or is it Croy? It's Croy. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for letting me speak. My name is, again, Rocky Croy. I reside at 5127 Whispering Springs Road. I have been a resident of Mason since 2004. So I'm going to speak on a couple different levels here. I was just made aware of this possible change a week ago and felt obligated to speak on behalf of our coaches, our student athletes, and our residents here of what situation we have right now. I have two boys that have gone all the way through Mason schools and graduated from Mason, both also involved with athletics, which I'll bring up in just a moment. But I also have 30 years of experience in outpatient physical therapy in this area, in Cincinnati and the Dayton market both. I have clinics in both areas and had an opportunity to work with all of our Dayton orthopedic groups as well as our Cincinnati orthopedic groups. And have had the pleasure to get to know Dr. Rosano. I've worked with Beacon Orthopedics for many years, but have gotten an opportunity to get to know him on the sidelines as also treating my boys. My youngest, who is now playing lacrosse at Cleveland State, just about lost his dream his senior year, injuring his knee very badly and was unable to run or climb steps for 19 months. And I watched a physician follow him tooth and nail from start to finish. I would stand on a table for him for that reason alone as a parent. Obviously, it touches your heart a little harder, but watching him treat all of our athletes and having the opportunity to get to know him from a clinic standpoint, again, I see his patients. I see patients from the orthopedic groups in Dayton and Cincinnati. And word of mouth, when you speak to a patient and they speak of the bedside manner, the way they are treated in the clinics, speaks miles, right? So I've always heard nothing but great things about Dr. Rosano. I've always had great success with his patients. So when I caught word that there was a possibility we would lose him as our team physician, again, my kids are at least 2 years removed from Mason now, but I felt obligated that I needed to speak as a parent who watched and have witnessed the elite benefits that we have with Dr. Rosano and his team from Beacon Orthopedics. I felt like I needed to speak up as a parent. So that's the main purpose I'm here. Thanks for hearing me out. Hopefully we can rectify this issue and keep that elite status from a medical standpoint with our student athletes and our student body. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you. Are there any other speakers tonight, Tracy? Just the four? Okay. All right, thank you very much. If any of you would like to exit the meeting, we'll take a brief pause again.
Connie, you didn't explain the process, and some of these guys are new speakers. Could you just remind them, you know, this isn't the time we get into the dialogue, we hear them and all.
I can do that. What is typical of our hearing of the public, for those that are not familiar, is we will hear speakers, as I mentioned, 3 minutes per person. We have a limit of 30 minutes. The intent with that is to hear as many individuals that want to speak to the board as we have time allotted for. The time of hearing of the public is not a time where we respond to the speakers. We will take the information and we will discuss it. We'll make ourselves available for contact from any of the constituents that were within the district, parents, families, businesses as well. Also, the administration is available for contact and for questions that you may have. We will do the research, talk with our superintendent, and respond in the best manner that we can in answering any questions that several of you raised some questions tonight. We will attempt to get those answers to you.
I just add too, there's no action items here tonight regarding, you know, the relationship that you all have obviously touched on here tonight, but we do appreciate you coming, sharing your thoughts with us.
Again, that is the same procedure that is in our agenda. Hopefully you all have a copy of that. And any questions, as I mentioned, we're all available for individual contact. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you for being here tonight. We appreciate it. Next item on the board's agenda tonight is item 7. Administrative personnel, superintendent's recommendation. I need a motion, please.
So move.
Seconded.
Are there any comments or discussion?
Yeah, just on item A or 7A, we have a couple things going on here. One, we want to welcome Justin Blevins to the Treasurers Group because he's going to be taking over the
Benefits coordinator.
Position. We talked about Crystal taking off, and it's hard to find good people to come into that role. So Justin has been a part of our team for quite a while in the teaching realm. He's looking at the treasurer position and going into learning how to become a treasurer, and then this opened up, and this looked like a good fit for him. So congratulations, Justin, and welcome. And then Joycelyn Center is also someone I'd like to welcome back to the district. She was a part of our district as an assistant principal at the high school when I first came in. I think we overlapped a year way back in I don't know how many years ago that was. Let's say 7, something like that, 6 or 7. And she's coming back to MECC as an assistant principal. And one of her main reasons is just wanting to get back into the Mason culture and a part of what she called the family. So we're excited to welcome her back.
We will be glad to have Joycelyn back. Any other comments? Seeing none, Sean, please call the roll.
Ms. Abachi?
Yes.
Mr. Wise?
Yes.
Mr. Galvin?
Yes.
Mr. Orr?
Yes.
Ms. Yingling?
Yes.
5-0.
Next is item 8, non-district funded positions. We have quite a few. I need a motion, please.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Comments or questions?
No, there's a lot on here, so as you're reading through, you see all of the activities and athletic event tournaments that are coming up, and so we thank everybody for stepping up and making all those possible so that our kids have lots of options for them. So thanks so much for all the folks that are a part of that part of the agenda.
Absolutely. Any other comments? Seeing none, Sean, please call the roll.
Mr. Wise?
Yes.
Mr. Galvin?
Yes.
Mr. Orr?
Yes.
Ms. Yingling?
Yes.
Ms. Abachi?
Yes.
5-0.
Item 9, contracted personnel, independent contracts. I need a motion, please.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Comments?
One of the things that we have, obviously, is we have 75 languages spoken here. Is that correct? Something like that, 75. So you always see us continuing to bring on interpreters to support our families and the needs. We also have needs with our family engagement that we've been talking about for a couple of years, and we've worked with Amanda Altman for video services throughout the pandemic, and so as our video services have gone up in communication, she's been a part of that. So this is a contract. She's gone out and become an independent contractor at this point in time, so we're going to try to keep her as part of that process. We used to do that through the chamber, and now she's going to be working with us, and I think also hopefully with the chamber as well. But she's doing that on her own, so we're happy to see her growing her business, but we want to keep her around for a little longer. And that will allow us to expand some of our family engagement. We have a concept called Family Academy that we've been trying to get off the ground for a couple of years, but we've had a couple things that have pushed that back, and so hopefully this will be our chance to do that.
Excellent. Yeah, you're right. That would be good to come out of that.
Yep.
Any other comments? Seeing none, Sean, please call the roll.
Mr. Galvin?
Yes.
Mr. Orr?
Yes.
Mrs. Yingling?
Yes.
Mrs. Abachi?
Yes.
Mr. Wise?
Yes.
5-0.
Next is item 10, certified personnel superintendent's recommendations. Again, there are a few. I need a motion, please.
So moved.
Second?
Thank you. Comments or suggestions? Or
Yeah.
comments or questions, sorry. We make suggestions too.
Suggestions too. I would suggest that we celebrate those that are retiring and just congratulate them on their journey. Thank you for their service. And we love Ms. Reed for her service and work here. You'll see that in the retirement section, as well as others that are moving on to other opportunities. And then the appointments you have in here, just so we remind everybody what this is on item D. Our counselors, guidance counselors, learning experience designers, psychologists, and alternative school coordinator, they get extended time into their contract. So those are days that they have extended past their contract so that they can do extra work during the summer, whether it's facilitating work for curriculum and learning development, or working on getting the transition for kids from one grade level to the next, and some of that documentation orienting to the 504, so on and so forth. So that's reflected on this section, on section D. And then you can see some new teachers that are coming on board, and I want to congratulate those. Those are teachers that go through the whole process, which they have multiple levels of that process. And then their final level is they meet with me, and we go over our culture expectations and guide and have a conversation as they end that interview process, and then they make it to here as a recommendation.
Very good. Any other comments or questions?
I'd like to thank Patrice Reed. She was my daughter's first grade teacher. So
Really?
grateful that she was here to teach her, and congratulations on her retirement.
That's great.
It's always fun to see that come to
It is.
full circle. All right, Sean, please call the roll.
Mr. Orr?
Yes.
Mrs. Yingling?
Yes.
Mrs. Abachi?
Yes.
Mr. Wise?
Yes.
Mr. Galvin?
Yes.
5-0.
Next item is 11, classified personnel superintendent's recommendations. I need a motion, please.
So moved.
Second?
Thank you. Comments or questions? Seeing none, Sean, please call the roll.
Mrs. Yingling?
Yes.
Mrs. Abachi?
Yes.
Mr. Wise?
Yes.
Mr. Galvin?
Yes.
Mr. Orr?
Yes.
5-0.
Next item is 12, classified personnel additional duties. I need a motion, please.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Questions? Seeing none, Sean, please call the roll.
Mrs. Abachi?
Yes.
Mr. Wise?
Yes.
Mr. Galvin?
Yes.
Mr. Orr?
Yes.
Mrs. Yingling?
Yes.
5-0.
Item 13, action items, the superintendent's recommendations. Again, there are several. Jonathan, first of all, I need a motion, please.
So moved.
Second.
And Jonathan?
Yeah, let me try to do my best to summarize some of these and highlight some things. So on the first one here, you'll see the building fees and handbooks. The majority of the handbooks and fees will be staying similar to what they were last year. One noticeable change to pay attention to is just a cell phone policy, or I would say practice, in which we're trying to see less cell phone screen usage during our instructional times with our kids, because our kids all have devices. And so we're moving from K-8 to keeping cell phones away. So if a child wants to have their cell phone on them, they can do that. They can have it in their backpack, but just not out. So when they're in class, they're not sitting like this or with their cell phone. Here, they're actually engaging with the learning in the class. So that is one thing that we're trying to trial and learn about. And so I would say if you're a parent and you have students within pre-K through 8th grade and you're going through that experience with us next year in the fall, we're going to have some family engagement around that and understanding what you're seeing as a family. I have, well, now I don't have anybody in the middle school, but I have 2 high school students that just came through the middle school. But I have 2 that are getting ready to go into middle school. So just opening that dialogue with our community about how do we manage, how do we do this well together with cell phones, with kids, social media, and not saying that it's bad to have a cell phone or we don't want to take the safety away from that, but just more how do we continue to focus in on the learning that's happening in front of them and the human-to-human connection, and then still have this as a great resource. So that is something I would draw your attention to in the handbooks piece. There's a couple other small changes in there, but that's probably the most noticeable one this year, I would say. Tracy, would you say that's?
That's the most significant
Okay.
change.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
that-
Is there some
Am I
other-
allowed to say that?
No,
no,
you say
you
it.
should, yeah.
Oh.
There is a little.
I've got we both have high schoolers, so,
We do.
but mine is a girl, and so the dress code was a topic of conversation from her
Got it.
father, who's a board member. So if you wouldn't mind.
So there's some
The
dress
high
code updates in the high school version as well that I would draw your attention to. And I couldn't tell you the specifics off the top of my head what they are, but I do know that based on
It
our
will be harder
feedback.
to get shirts for young ladies that, who might be shopping. No, shirts are supposed to be
Cover.
covering to your
The
waistband.
midsection.
Yes.
Yeah. So that is one update in there. And so if you are shopping for school, I would review that and make sure that the mid area is covered up.
Yeah.
I believe that's
That's probably the biggest change for
in school.
that students will see for next year.
And that was based on feedback and data collected from staff and students last year. So we used that to try to drive some of the changes that we are seeing this year. And again, we're open to feedback, so as we go forward on that. I think that's been probably a topic several years going, I imagine, at the high school. So that's also on there. Are there anything else on there that I think those are the main ones that I can remember that were the biggest topics.
Is there significant?
Okay. So that's A. The next one, we talked about head mechanic job description. So that's not a new conversation. It's something we've been working on with Todd and the operations crew. The salary adjustment for that same position, we had to build that in place so that we would actually have that in place. So that's B and C on that. On D, we have the new comic care position salary that we talked about. This was a discussion I believe we had last board meeting. Correct me if I'm wrong, if I'm making that up, but I'm pretty positive that was our conversation last time. And you saw that we revamped some of our positioning for the comic cares area. So you'll see that show up in here as well. I would draw everyone's attention to items E, F, and G. So E, F, and G, when we look at salaries and pay scales across our organization, we do that multiple times a year, and it's an ongoing conversation. So when we look at specifically, for example, item E, the salary or pay schedules for special education, specialized aid positions, we look at how ours compares to the rest of the market. And so what we always want to try to do our best is always to keep our folks in market. We do other teachers, our classified and our certified staff. And that takes quite a bit of time because we do a full study of the schools around the area and compare what services are being provided by our A's compared to other schools. And then we try to look at the salary schedule, not only how many steps there are, but what does that start in and how does it end? Are we competitive at the front end? Are we also competitive at the end of that salary schedule? And so Sean Bevan and his group, Tanya McCall and her group, and others are a part of that conversation. We come together and do that study over a year's time, and then we make recommendations. So these are, after a year of scheduling and looking through that, these are the recommendations that we have. So I would let everybody, or I would encourage people to look at those and see, because we are making significant investments in people that are working directly with our kids. So with our aides, they brought that to our attention. With our nurses, they brought that to our attention. So we're making sure that and our nurses have been through probably the hardest 2 years of their entire life. So looking at their schedules and trying to make that a more competitive salary range as well. Sean, anything else with that, or is that?
Well done.
Okay. Sub-teacher rates. So last year you heard us talk about sub-teachers a lot, and we created a premium pay, was one of the concepts or strategies that we used. This year we're actually raising the pay rate for a long-term sub, because we're looking specifically at long-term subs and saying, and remind me, our number that we landed on is?
11. It's $100 a day for regular subs, and if you're in a long-term assignment, which is defined as 11 days or more, then they'll be at $150 a day.
So we're going right to $150 a day if you're in a long-term sub position for 11 days or more. So if you're considering next year, and I'm sure you're watching this, planning out your schedule for next year, I would encourage you to consider subbing. It's a great place to sub. We love having subs here. We are now one of the most competitive pays in the whole region for subs, for the base pay, but also for long-term sub pay. So we encourage you, if you're subbing in the area, to consider being a Comet and joining us.
We also have great kids.
We have great kids, great facilities, and just a great culture here. So we'd love to have you. The next ones on here, you'll see gifted coordinator. We do not have a full-time gifted coordinator just on our own administrative team, but we do hire and consult and bring a gifted coordinator in, and we have the same gifted coordinator every year with Hamilton County ESC. And so that is reflected on item H, so that we can make sure we continue to have the same service levels for our gifted community. We also have Hamilton County ESC contracts on here for both St. Sue, because we're the people that own or hold their contract for them, so they run that through our board agenda, and great partners with them. And then we have the Hamilton County ESC annual contract agreement, which again, just to review, the Hamilton County ESC contract and the Warren County ESC contract, if you're not familiar with those and you're watching this for the first time, we have the educational service centers in our region. We are in Warren County, but we work with Warren County and Hamilton County because we're a big enough organization and school, and we have enough needs. And so those educational service centers offer everything from physical therapy for our kids to speech pathology to a gifted coordinator, to other services that we need that we might not need a full-time person, but we need a part-time person, so we'll buy that service through them. We also have other services where kids are getting served in different locations because we might not have the full services here for maybe some of the needs that they have, and there's better places and placements for that. And so we do that through our Hamilton County ESC and Warren County ESC. So they're both great partners, and these are the annual service agreements that we have with them. One of Warren County has gone up a little bit on theirs because of some of the pay increases that they were, just like us, looking at trying to make competitive pay for their aides and different folks in their organization. As that went up, our contract reflects that in some of the things that come up. Panorama contract comes up next. That is something we tried last year. The 3 years before that, the 3 years consecutively, we would build a survey that we would put out for our families and our students, and we made that ourselves. We made that in-house. The one difficulty or challenge that we had with that survey is we really didn't have any comparison groups. So we would survey and we'd compare against ourselves, which was healthy in some ways. But we had a bigger wondering was, how do we actually compare to other suburban school districts? How do we compare to school districts our size and in different topics? And so what Panorama does is it's a nationwide survey consortium that you can choose from different surveys that it has. We choose a couple of those. We use those with our staff, our students, and our families, and we did that this last year. And it allows us to not only compare against ourselves at a starting point and end point, but it also, then we can do national comparisons, and it has some nice graphics and charts that our principals use to really break that down. So for example, when we're asking, does a child find a sense of belonging here, or they feel safe here, or whatever, we can break that down to the exact questions and start to look at that and then build strategy around how are we going to address that so that all kids feel that sense of belonging or get the services that they need. Or if a family's telling us through that survey they need something else, we can dig into that further. So that's what it provides for us. This will be our second year, I think, using that. And most of the school districts in our area have now adopted that as their tool because of the same reasons that I just shared with you.
Jonathan, I might pause for just a second there. If you guys are looking at the paper version, there were actually two things on there that were removed before or after the printing of the paper version. On your paper one, it's L and M. One is the CAREI contract, and one is the Cincinnati Center for Autism contract. Just we go through our process with all of our contracts where we have our legal counsel review those, and we kind of go back and forth between our legal counsel and the vendor before we settle on a final version of the contract. So those two were removed because we were not quite finished with that process as of this afternoon. So we'll put those on next month's agenda. But if you're wondering where those are at, those have been moved to the next month. So, yep, sorry, go ahead, Jonathan.
No, thank you very much. I'm going to jump to item O is the Moats turf agreement. Over the last probably 10 years, we've been continuing to monitor the baseball and softball fields and just kind of what's needed there, and evaluating whether or not when is the right time to move to either doing some resurfacing in that area or looking at the possibility of some turf in a portion of the field, which would be the infields. And so over time, we've gone through that process and looked at different partnerships out there of people who would desire to use that. And through our facilities committee and several meetings over the last couple of years, we've come to a agreement where we are going to do just the infields on both the softball and the infield on the baseball field. So, and if you have questions more specific, I know Todd has some of those drawings and details out, so he'd be happy to share those with you as well. Next one on here is the VSWC Architect Service Agreement. So we do have an agreement. We put that out for bid. VSWC is the one that came in. And that just is an agreement that they are the ones that are going to be drawing up and working with us on some of our projects. And fortunately, that's someone we know really well with Jim Voris and crew, but we're fortunate just to have them right here in town. They do work with large school districts across the state and other parts of the country, so we're just happy to have them here. The next one on here is Q, which is a camera replacement cycle. So when I first came in as a Chief Innovation Officer, one of the things that we wanted to upgrade was the safety of our high school and middle school buildings. And so we invested in our high school and putting new cameras in this building so that you could see 98% of every space in the building. So we don't obviously have them in the bathrooms and in those places, but everywhere else. And that was a big investment at that time. And we took the cameras from this building, which were some were okay and some were not, and so we moved those then into our elementary buildings because we did not feel like we didn't have any there and we needed some camera work there. So we put them all through our buildings and upgraded some of the places that we did have cameras at our elementaries and upgraded them with what we had from here. So we recycled and reused those. Well, those have now outdated, and with some of the most recent safety things that have happened in our world, it was on our cycle to look at that, and so this just made that more certain that it was time to do that and make sure that we're upgrading our cameras so that we also have 98% coverage in all of our buildings. So with the renovation of the middle school, we did that. High school, we did that, and now with all of our elementaries by, I think, October timeframe, we're hoping. Yeah, if the supply chain and all that goes well, we hope to have that in the fall, that we would have all new cameras all on the same system. So that system also is a system that we work collaboratively with our local police department as well. So if there was ever an emergency situation that we all had to tap into that, we have codes and protocols in place that we could actually start to work with them. They're not tapped in, they're looking at our stuff at any time, but there is a protocol that goes into place when a safety event or a crisis event would happen. So just so people know, that's what this is a safety measure.
Jonathan, can I ask you a question about, do we have the staff that we need to monitor and maintain all of that equipment?
We
because
do
as you
have
said, that's grown.
Yep, we do have a person that is doing that now, and I know our team is discussing the possibility of what needs do we have there in our facilities area specifically, and because right now we have one of our techs from our tech team that does work on these. We also have a person here at the high school that looks at the cameras and doors. And so between those two, we're going to see and evaluate what are the new needs here and see if there has to be some additional responsibilities added on to someone else that's here or if we need another staff member. So we'll the first thing we want to do is get these in place and then evaluate the actual needs that we have.
Okay.
Yeah. Alpha Omega contract has stayed the same this year. We went up last year, but this year it's going to stay the same, I believe. And then the last item on here is the central office restroom renovation and the mech calming rooms. That bid went out and came in $70,000 under, which is great news for us. That's not heard of right now, so we're happy that came under. If anybody's wondering about the central office restrooms, our restrooms, we don't really put a lot of time and energy into central office. It is a beautiful building, but we try to put all of our energy and resources into our buildings with our kids. But when the toilets aren't flushing and those kind of things, it's time.
It's beautiful. It's beautiful in a historic kind of classical sense.
It's a historic, but when your architect says, I don't think these are going to work much longer.
I mean, we always had bathrooms.
We
They
did have
weren't
bathrooms.
outhouses, so we should
So-
continue to have
so
The
before we
Mona
get into-
Lisa is a beautiful painting also.
Yeah.
You know, I think.
Yes. So if you get any ideas that we're doing anything exciting over there, we're bringing them up to a place where they're no longer going to be 6 inches from the ground because they're primary school originally, and they're original to the building. So we're just going to update some of the piping that goes back behind the walls and just make sure everything's going to the places it needs to go.
Thank you. That was a list.
I'm sorry, that was more detailed than you'd ever want to know about that project, but I also there's a lot on this, and I want to make sure you heard all of it. The calming rooms those are rooms that are calming for students that need a moment to calm, and so we have some calming spaces provided for our students. They're small spaces, but they're spaces that we provide for students that might need a minute, and that's according to what they might need, so. I think that's everything. Any questions or comments or reviewing any of those, or Sean or anybody else?
Anyone?
Thanks for your patience to going through those.
I will say, make a couple comments about a few. First of all, people think that we take the summer off at a school district. That's not really the case, as is judged by this list. Secondly, I just want to emphasize what you said regarding the Warren County Educational Service Center and in Hamilton County as well. Not only does that allow us to serve students that we might not otherwise be able to service, it also provides flexibility because those needs change from year to year, and the numbers of students with those needs change year to year. So that's kind of a lifesaver for us. And the last thing I'll mention is the handbooks. Every single year, that is one of the, in my opinion, largest projects. It's a tedious project, but it's one that is really, really important to our families. So appreciate everyone's work on that. Anyone else have any comments or?
Yeah, just on two. One, Finance Committee's been dealing with the property and casualty insurance renewal. There's lots of considerations that need to be made there. And then importantly, properly shopped, the right relationships. So I want to thank Sean for kind of marshaling that with our vendors. And then from a facility standpoint, the turf agreement on the baseball and the softball field, I think one of the things that we've done, it was actually, ironic that tonight we had several speakers during the hearing of the public talking about one of the ways that we've been able to provide facilities over the years. The way we've been doing it for the last couple of decades is providing base services, and then where we have the opportunity to elevate the facilities, in many cases we have, has typically had a financing mechanism behind it that's not taxpayer funded. And a couple things are required. One is there's some creativity that goes into that. There has to be another party who's interested in proving the demand for the facilities. And then third and most importantly, discipline and diligence to follow it through. And I'm most proud about the last part, because the other two usually find their way to good quality projects and opportunities, but following through, I can imagine a lot of schools, a lot of public entities come up with a great vision, but then does anyone actually pay? Is it financed the way it was originally said? And I'm not saying we're perfect, but our softball and our baseball coaching staffs and our athletic department has been patient as an opportunity has come up now to extend that same approach onto the baseball and the softball fields. And as we said here, we think we have a solid plan to pay for that over the next 10 years through a combination of the rentals, the way we can rent that and fully utilize a field that isn't subject to the kind of maintenance that's required, and then the lower, annual maintenance it takes to keep a field like that up. So I commend the coaching staff. I applaud them for being willing to step back from being the primary owners of that facility. That's a hard thing for a head coach to do, to know that, okay, I'm not going to have, veto power over that facility anymore. And so that was a big step, I know, for these two coaches to realize that it's the opportunity for the kids outweighs the desire to own that schedule in an exclusive way. And then this will also bring more people to Mason through tournaments and other things where our fields can be used, bring economic development to our community. So I'm pleased with it. It's not one that we always prioritize at the high part of our list, but it's certainly when a deal can come together where all those kind of criteria can be met, and we have willing and accommodating coaches who are willing to step aside and let others use their place, then it looks like we have an opportunity here. So just wanted to provide a little added color on that one.
That's great. So yeah, I'll piggyback on the handbook piece that Connie hit on. In conversations with my high school student, reservations, trepidations about the updated dress code. Give it a year, and if it isn't what we come to an agreement on as far as what's working in the high school, students, I encourage you to talk to Principal Dodd and your other associate and assistant principals to come to a better understanding of what that is. This isn't done in a punitive way, but to provide some consistency and standards around what kind of learning environment we want to have at the high school. So, yeah, give it a year, and if it's not working, then let's revisit. Want to thank Sean again. Sean's doing a lot of heavy lifting through this one, but with being on the finance committee and seeing the amount of work that goes into making sure that we're market competitive across the board, right? And in positions that don't always hit the headlines is really important. Specifically, I'll highlight the specialized and special aid positions. These are the people who have the closest contact with our students that need a little bit more attention, a little bit more care, a little bit more specificity. So making sure that we can retain these professionals and hire the best ones is critical. So that we get this right is really important to the educational outcomes for those students, and to Jonathan's point, especially for the nurses, what they've endured for the past 2 years, to be able to make sure that they're recognized in their compensation with how we see them and how they're valued in the marketplace is really important. So kudos, appreciate you making sure that work gets done, Sean.
Thank you. Any other comments? Seeing none, Sean, please call the roll.
Mr. Wise?
Yes.
Mr. Galvin?
Yes.
Mr. Orr?
Yes.
Mrs. Yingling?
Yes.
Mrs. Abachi?
Yes, but I must abstain on item K.
4-0.
Okay, next is item 14, the treasurer's report. I'll ask for a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Second?
Thank you. Sean, I'll turn it over to you for your comments.
Sure. Just a couple things on the agenda for approval tonight. We don't have our typical monthly reports. We're still working through those for the month of June and the fiscal year end. So we'll have those on for next month. But the approval of the health insurance rates for this coming year, just a note here, this was a topic in a recent Finance Committee meeting. One of the great benefits, I think, that the school district has and this community has is being self-funded for insurances. And that's something that, again, kudos to previous boards and administrations over the last 20 years that set that up, and we've been able to benefit from that, where you know, if we have a year where our revenues exceed our expenses, instead of Anthem or somebody else pocketing those dollars do stay in our own health insurance fund, and we have the ability to use those in different areas within the district. We go through the process each year of looking at actuarial data and claims data and setting those rates. And so this agenda item does approve those rates to be set for next year. So again, that's a good thing for our district. And then secondly, donations on here. Again, we have those every month, but just appreciate the people in the community and vendors and individuals who are supporting opportunities for kids.
Well, thank you. Any comments or questions? I appreciate the work on the insurance over time. As the district has grown in size, that subject matter has become more and more critical for us to stay on top of for our employees, and I appreciate the hard work on that. Seeing no other comments, Sean, please call the roll.
Mr. Galvin?
Yes.
Mr. Orr?
Yes.
Mrs. Yingling?
Yes.
Mrs. Batchy?
Yes.
Mr. Wise?
Yes.
5-0.
Thank you. Item 15, committee reports. Let's see, we have,
Yeah, there are two committees that have met, I believe, in the last 2 weeks, Athletic Council and Finance Committee. So I don't know if you wanted to say anything about Athletic Council at all. Nope. So I think we pretty much talked about the field and the turf. That was one of the big topics. But there really wasn't much more to discuss at this time. I think it was just a reflection on the year. We did talk a little bit about the gate and what we've brought in this year compared to the previous years. I don't know that we've made all of that up, but we're closer than we were.
We're in the black.
Yes, better than we
Right.
were.
Yep.
And then next year, we did get just a quick glance at, I think, the schedule and how many home football
Yep.
games we have and how that will impact our bottom line.
And speaking of athletics, one of the things we are looking at for next year is, over the last few years, we have been a district that's offered, either you can have the option to purchase tickets online, or you can also purchase at the gate for cash. Some of our neighbors have already gone to a fully cashless system, and so our plan for the coming year is to move over in that direction to where we are a fully cashless gate receipt system. So that's also in the works.
That's right. Thank you.
okay, great. Thank you.
In terms of Finance Committee, we had a couple topics. One was just looking at market data. I think everything we talked about in Finance Committee was on the agenda here tonight, so looking at market data for some of our staff positions, making sure that we're remaining competitive and able to attract and retain quality staff members for our kids. And the second topic was I just drew a blank, property and casualty insurance. Thank you. Property and casualty insurance renews July 1st, and so we did.
You would have been reminded.
We work with our broker USI to take us out to the market and get bids from various companies, and so we appreciate their help with that, and appreciate Mr. Orr and Mr. Wise going through that process with us to help make sure that we're finding the best coverages and at the best rates, and so those were our two primary topics at the Finance Committee.
You're selling yourself short. We also reviewed the PI fund.
We did do that too, yes.
So
We
it
look-
was, Shauna's doing an excellent job. If you're a numbers nerd and that stuff doesn't put you to sleep, grab either budget forecast, grab them, look at them, being managed very well to the extent that we're able to do a lot of things that a lot of districts want to do, but because of Sean's leadership, we're able to do. So, again, appreciate you.
Thank you.
Okay. The next item is legislative update. Jonathan?
Yeah, all I'll say with the legislative update is that it's been quiet. We know that the fall will be just hopping, and there will be a lot of conversation for us to think about and consider locally that will be happening at the state level. But the only thing that didn't quite make headlines or the news was House Bill 583. House Bill 583 continued the flexibility with substitute teachers. It just allows us to be more flexible in our criteria of who we're bringing in as subs, and that helps us to expand the possibilities in having someone right out of college or halfway through their college time to come here. So if you are interested in subbing here again, I'll push that plug that we have lots of flexibility and we're paying very competitively for our substitute teachers. But that would be House Bill 583 that went through. That's all for legislative right now. I'm sure we'll continue to watch things closely as we move forward.
Did you have anything to add?
Nothing to add.
Okay. All right, moving on to administrator commentary. Tracy?
Just a couple things. One, just wanted to recognize again Heather Smith and her husband and what that commitment of really thinking about what our military families need in terms of inclusive excellence in our ROC. When we think about our military families, they have different experiences and stories that we need to understand to be able to serve. So it's a really wonderful way of, we've tried to now, it will be on our new website that we'll be launching later this month, have a section on there for military families so that they can, they know that we have resources that we're ready to be able to understand and help, but that would never have happened without Heather really shepherding and helping give us the insight. So many of us have not served. Our country is really protected by a very few, who volunteer to serve. And so it's such an honor to be able to learn beside them and hear their stories and do well. So I really appreciate that. And then one other thing I thought about from the handbooks, that is a small change, but it offers something for our families too. Next year, we will, the U.S. Department of Agriculture is no longer doing the free breakfasts and lunches. So families will now go back to a model where they are paying for their children's lunches. And along with that, they will have the opportunity. We have a great system in place where you can preload your child's account. You can add money. In the past, we've just charged, and then sometimes just kind of if you needed to, now the last couple of years, you haven't gotten any charges. Now you would get a charge, but you would up to $15. If after that, we will actually try to help get some money back from you if so if your child needs, you missed it, we're going to give you a little bit of a grace period, but that is a change that probably families need to remember and think about because it's different from where we've been.
Thank you, Tracy. Good point.
And along with that, from an inclusive excellence standpoint, if you have any financial hardship, please do our free and reduced lunch application. We will walk you through it. It's actually a really important way to also access other services. So we have an amazing prevention and wellness team that can give, anyone who qualifies for those services is also going to have a lot of fees waived. We'll have access to all kinds of tests that you can get for free, all the things. So plugging in, do not be, if you have a need, we are here to serve you. It's confidential. It won't be shared. It will make sure that your family receives the services that they need.
Absolutely. Thank you. Amy?
Nothing additional.
Nothing tonight? Okay.
Nothing from
Christine?
me tonight.
No? Mr. Petrie? No? Quiet group.
Nothing from me either.
Hey, I just want to thank everyone that was here tonight. It was great to have the local Legion here to join us, especially on close to a holiday weekend. We talked about the quick update for the legislative update. Just really quick snapshot. Our team had a chance to be for a few days in D.C. at a conference, and we learned some things that will really, I think, propel us into the future in a good way and really energize some of our visionary desires. But one moment that we had was we ran into a gentleman who actually was from D.C. and took a long walk with us and started talking to him. And this gentleman actually is an attorney that works inside the U.S. Capitol, and he advises both sides, the Senate and the House, and works closely with them. So when a bill comes forward, he's the advisor, and he's a pretty humble guy. He's probably a senior advisor on that group, but he is happy and willing to be a partner of ours. So when we have students who want to connect in and learn a little bit about the legislative process, I think George is willing to be on our team. So not only did we have a great conference, but we made some great connections for our kids. And then the only other thing I'll say is when we talk about changes and anything we do, whether it's on the handbook or anything, just remember, we are always thinking through our lens of culture and what we're doing here. So there's not a decision that's made that doesn't touch this. And so if you get into the change, as Mr. Orr mentioned, and we're into it or halfway through it and it doesn't quite feel, bring this out, look at it, compare it, hold it up against, and then bring it to us in conversation. That's how we have good quality community conversation around things we believe and making sure we're making decisions in alignment to that. So I want to echo that and encourage people to be engaged. That's how we make the changes we do. Thanks.
Okay, board commentary. Kevin, you want to start?
Well, I had to miss the last meeting, so I want to thank all of you for
We missed you.
covering me in my absence. And made a lot of comments during the meeting tonight, so I think because of that, I'll just move on.
All right. Ian?
Excited to start the 22-23 school year. Close the books on successful 21-22, so thanks guys for that. And if you haven't checked your AP scores, kids, parents, check your AP scores, they're out.
Great, thank you. Charles?
Just wishing everybody happy Independence Day and hope everybody had a good time with your friends and family over the holiday weekend. Appreciate, like we said earlier, the attendance by everybody tonight. And again, to recap and reiterate, no action items on the agenda tonight related to anything we heard about during the hearing of the public. I'm sure this will be a conversation that continues on, but to kind of echo Jonathan's point about the culture guide, this board is always concerned with the well-being and best interest of our, students and staff and community stakeholders, being good partners with all of the businesses in our community, and so we will definitely be paying close attention to a lot of moving pieces going forward.
Absolutely. Desiree?
I just wanted to thank the local Legion for coming tonight. I wish you could be here for every meeting. That is, it's a meaningful presentation of color. And Heather for everything she's done on achieving this recognition for our school and prior to her work on this project. She's very much appreciated, and her husband for his service. And just happy 4th of July, and we're buzzing through summer pretty quick. I can't believe we're already into the first week of July. So yeah, it won't be long. We'll be opening the doors up again for our kids and ready to begin the new school year. It'll be a good one this year. We are moving out of the last 2 years of COVID, and I'm looking forward to a normal start.
I agree, exactly. Yeah, it was great to have the colors presented tonight. I agree with you, Desiree. I wish we could do that every meeting. It's a reminder of our history and what we have to be grateful for, and right after Independence Day is marvelous timing. So, and thank Heather and her husband both for what they do for our community and our country. And with that, I will ask for a motion to adjourn.
So move.
Second?
All in favor?
John? Yes.
Yes, please.
Yes.
Thank you.